God of the future, you see beginning and end. God of the rescue, God of the breakthrough, how great is your faithfulness. You're not done yet. No eye has ever seen, no ear has ever heard, no one could ever comprehend. Your word will be enough, your promise we will trust. Greater things are still ahead. You're not done yet. You're not done yet. God, in my seeking, God, in my dreaming, you put a song in my soul. God, in the working, God, I'm believing you'll do the impossible. You're not done yet. No eye has ever seen, no ear has ever heard, no one could ever comprehend. Your word will be enough, your promise we will trust. Greater things are still ahead. You're not done yet. You're not done yet. You're not done yet. You're not done yet. You're up to something right now. You're doing a new thing right now. God, let your glory come down. Don't hold back, don't hold back. You're up to something right now. You're doing a new thing right now. God, let your glory come down. Don't hold back, don't hold back. You're up to something right now. You're doing a new thing right now. God, let your glory come down. Don't hold back, don't hold back. No eye has ever seen, no ear has ever heard, no one could ever comprehend. Your word will be enough, your promise we will trust. Greater things are still ahead. You're not done yet. You're not done yet. You're not done yet. Greater things are still ahead. You're not done yet.
Good morning and welcome to The Bridge Online. My name's Angie and I'm one of the staff here at The Bridge, and I'm so glad you decided to join us this morning. If you're new here and it's Sunday morning, I encourage you to click that New Here button on your screen. Not only do we want to send you a free gift, we'd love to connect with you and get to know you better. Now, if you've been here for a little while longer, you probably know that we are a storytelling church. We believe that when we share our stories of faith, we get the opportunity to see God move in other people's lives, and in turn, made a huge impact on their stories. It could even impact your story. Well, today we have the amazing pleasure of interviewing Jon Hurd, one of Scott's longtime friends and authors. But before we get into that, I'd love to invite the band back on stage to sing two more of my favorite songs, Reckless Love and Graves into Gardens. Please join us and sing.
I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along. Your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Overwhelming, never-ending, reckless of a God. How it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love, God, yeah. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I found no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. How it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh God, you're here. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God,
Well, amen. I love that song. There's nothing more reassuring to me than knowing that no matter how far I stray, God will always come back and find me. He will leave the 99 just for me. And that's awesome. Well, here's something else that's awesome. From July 11th to the 15th, we are hosting Bridge Kids Make Waves Summer Camp. It's going to be a week of fun, friendship, and sharing God's love with everyone around us. Not only do we have spaces left for kids, we also have spaces left for volunteers. We actually need 26 volunteers to be exact. Can I count you in to be one of them? If so, we would love for you to sign up at bridgechurches.ca/top3. There's a link there to sign up for your kids and a link to sign up as a volunteer. And we would love for you to join us for the funnest week of the year. Now, next weekend is Father's Day weekend. So whether you are a dad, you know a dad, you want to be a dad, we invite you to come back next Sunday for a Scovilicious service. 10 wings, 10 sauces, 1 heat-fueled interview you will not want to miss. Still have no idea what I'm talking about? Check out this short clip to find out, and we'll see you after the service.
Oh, come on. Well, hey everybody, that video that you just saw of me eating chicken wings was violent to do, but I'm really excited for you to see it. You're going to have a lot of fun at my expense next week, and we hope you'll be back for that. It's a very special Father's Day edition of Hot Ones, our Storytellers. It's going to be a great time. Be sure to be back. And if you're in the Ottawa area and you want to come in person, we're going to have a great time. We actually have a special gift for all the dads out there, and it is Hot Ones and chicken wings related. So we hope you'll be back. We're really excited about next week. But between now and then, I'm thrilled to have my great friend Jon Hurd with us today. And this is actually another special edition of Hot Ones. I'm actually going back to my past and bringing someone who I was really good friends with into my present. And I want to talk with him today about life and about ministry and about something that he's been working on, and we're really excited to share it with you. And so Jon is with us. I want to say welcome. Thanks for coming all the way from Moncton, New Brunswick.
Thanks for having me.
This is crazy. So Jon and I went to school at what is now known as Kingswood University, but when we went there, it was called Bethany Bible College. And the motto was ring by spring or your money back. It was really a dating service that you went to for 4 years. And we had a lot of fun at school there. We had a lot of memories. We shared a few of them last night with each other as we were hanging out. But today we're going to talk a little bit about our lives since then, because Jon, it hit me. It's been 22 years since I've seen you.
That's right.
Like a lot has happened in 22 years.
A lot.
Right? And so we're going to talk a little bit, catch up together, and just talk about life. And I'm thrilled to do that. And so, John, before we jump in, want to ask you, when you think about life, it's been 22 years. What was your first memory of me? Like, if you can think back to 1995, 96, you first met Scott Landry. What is your first memory? I don't even know if I want to know. But
I don't know if I have a memory of the first time we met, but I know that in meeting you, you had these colorful pants that you used to wear. Like, we called them clown pants. I don't know if we did it to your face or not, which
I'm sure you did.
Says a lot about it. But you had a unique sense of style, like vests and things like that, and you still had hair. So I remember that curly ginger locks. So
you remember my pants and my hair.
That's for sure.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, my first memory of you is actually similar. Not that you had colorful pants, but John had the coolest hair, and I was so envious. Like you had like Jesus edition hair, like
later on, yeah.
But like it was epic long.
But ladies love to play with the hair. Yes.
They did. Like it was like I remember you were like a shampoo commercial hairstyle.
Sure.
Like it was shiny.
Yeah.
Did you use Vidal Sassoon? What was your?
I think it was Pantene Pro V.
Pantene Pro V. That's pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
And Gravity Cologne.
No. Gravity and Ricard Noir was my roommate.
So both hair related, and but you came from a different upbringing. Tell us a little bit about like how you ended up at Kingswood, or what was then known as Bethany. Like, tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
My story's kind of funny. Just I'm adopted. I don't know if you knew that about me.
I did.
Adopted into a family, like both parents Christian. Went to church a whole life. I was telling you earlier, we had 3 nights a week at church. So between youth group and regular church, and doing that, growing up in the church, you become like indoctrinated, let's say, for want of a better term. You just you're trained to believe certain things, and I did that. I was a good Christian for a long time. I recommitted my life in 11th grade, so started living a little more straight and narrow after having a kind of rebellious couple years.
Right.
But then, so my brother had gone to Bethany before us, and then I went, and then my sister went after us. So like the reason I went, it's funny. There's a story where I'm sitting in Prez's office with my best friend Mike and his mother and my mother, and he's like, so you're here, did you enjoy the tour and anything like that? And we were like, so yes, we did, but he asked what kind of program we were considering, and Mike, my friend, has wanted to be preacher his whole life, so he knew the pastoral track was the one he was going to take. And I said, well, thinking about a 1-year deal, and Mom steps in and goes, we're thinking about a 4-year program. So it kind of got taken out of my hands. Actually, I wanted to go into restaurant management.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It was kind of completely like shrinking to the will of my mother to go to Bethany, for want of a better term.
Okay.
But in the time between meeting in his office and going, we got the chance to, talk to my youth pastor and say, like, so what should I, and I kind of had a bit of a draw to just go to the school.
Right.
Yeah, so I just picked a major.
Right, and your major was?
Youth ministry.
Right,
yeah.
So John and I both majored in youth ministry, and we kind of, our lives going in the same track a little bit. We ended up going on a trip together at a church plant in Maine, which was one of my fondest memories of you. I mean, I have a number of them.
Yeah.
But John and I really, I think we were two people who, very different upbringings, different church backgrounds, experiences, the whole deal. We're probably an unlikely duo in terms of friendship.
Sure.
Would you agree?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So
not many of the same interests, or that we knew of back then.
Yeah. And so the two of us got paired to go on this trip together, where there was a church plant in Bangor, right? Mm-hmm. And so we went there together, and it was kind of for me, I had no context for a trip like that or an experience like that. Did you? Was that new to you?
Yeah, no, I'd been in a few
Okay.
through youth group and things like that. So.
Okay. So we go
different places.
So we go together, and we're on this trip, and so one of the, I don't know if you remember this, but one of the roles that we had to play was we went door to door.
Yes.
And we weren't wearing blue suits, and we didn't have any magazines, but we did have little pamphlets, I guess, about the church.
Yep.
And so as I mentioned earlier, John had this beautiful long hair, and I didn't. I don't think I was wearing colorful pants though. But we're walking down. Do you remember what happened?
I do.
Well, tell our friends what happened as we were walking door to door.
I'm sure I don't tell with as much humor as you do, but we had left a certain pamphlet with a certain lady, and we're walking down the steps. And we walk, and I just feel this bloop, heavy, wet bloop, and I'm like, man, I don't know, it was raining today. And it wasn't raining today.
It was. It was raining all right.
It's a raining crap. No, so I got dropped on by a bird, and it landed square in the center of the head. And I think as soon as we gathered what had happened, that turned on the laugh meter for you, because the luck of being crapped on by a bird. It's so random.
It was so random, but so perfect and poetic that the one with the beautiful long hair got the business, right? And like I'm, no hair, shaved head, and clean as a whistle. Like it was just the irony of that as never done, like never ceased to amaze me. But we had some other experiences on that trip as well. We really did. We went to minister, we went to serve. But I remember we got put up in a family's home, and you don't remember this though. We were talking about this earlier.
It sounds like me, but I didn't.
So you love cats, right?
Oh, right.
So we were staying in this room and together, and it was in the basement. And it was kind of an unfinished basement, but it had one room that was. And this family had this cat that, I guess cats go to people that don't like cats. And this cat kept going to John, and we were trying to sleep, and this cat kept purring and going up to John and like nudging him or whatever cats do. And I just remember like he finally got so frustrated. And you were like one of the most patient, kind, caring people I know. And that finally he just had enough. But in the night, he had rolled over and I think you must have lost direction or like where you were. And he picks this cat up as if he's throwing it out the door of the room. But he whiffs this cat right into the wall. And all of a sudden I hear this thud. Like this cat like lets out this screech. And I died. Like I thought, wow, that cat if it has 9 lives, it's down a few after that pitch. But... and then we did one other thing on that trip that's kind of stuck with me, and we did a kind of a comedy routine together. And remember that? That was
I had a comedy cassette. Christians tried to come up with ultimate rock compilations and things like that, and so they had a comedy one. There were some good Christian comedians back in the day. These guys did a skit, and it was Hicks and Cohagen. It was called Soldiers of Light. And
it sounds so lame.
It sounds so lame, but it was well done, and it was funny. And you and I were commissioned. That was our part. Like that's the role we were going to play in the service for the church that day. So you and I put in, I think, like a good 2 solid nights.
We did
trying to memorize it, and we nailed it. And then we got to perform it. It was fantastic.
We really did nail it, though.
Yeah, we did.
Like I'm
the
talking
voices
like
on and everything.
We had
without costumes, of course, but we did it well.
But I think two jokers just trying to make people laugh at a church. It was fun. And we try to do that here. We really value fun here at this church, and so hence the hot ones that's coming next week, and telling you some of these stories just to say we're 2 guys who went to college, became friends, and then life took us in 2 different directions for the next 22 years, and it's really cool just to be able to connect with you and for you to come and share. What I was trying to help people understand through those stories and those experiences was that we both went to the same school, and in some respects felt the same call, or we kind of had the same idea in mind for where we thought life was going to take us and what we thought God had for us.
Yeah.
And I left school in 2000 and went on into full-time church Christian ministry. Your life didn't go that way.
No.
And so how did that go for you when you came out of college? Like what was next for you?
So as hokey as it may sound, I felt like I was going to be married to a pastor. And that was really weird back then. I mean, there weren't a lot of female pastors, but my wife at the time was a minister.
Yeah.
So she got hired on because she had been at this church for her practicum or her practical ministry experience. And so we got rehired there, and we were there for 10 years. But it was, I got to run the gamut of volunteer things and found a job in regular, just in the workplace.
Right.
Worked at a grocery store for 7 years, and then worked at a cemetery. But during that time, she was the pastor the whole time, and
right.
we got to experience all that church had to offer. So
right.
But
I
was the co-pastor.
You were the co-pastor.
Not really.
Yeah, so what was that like for you in the sense of you went to school, you felt some sort of call, everybody at that school, like this school trains people exclusively for full-time church Christian ministry. You come out of that, it isn't what you thought you were getting into. What was that like for you? Was that a struggle? Were you okay with that? Or like, how have you tried to find your way, or did you think you found your way? What was that whole thing like?
So initially coming out, I really thought I was in the right place. And it was only about 5 or 6 years in that I started to experience this discontent. Like maybe I am supposed to be serving in a church somewhere. And so I put out an attempt, and I applied for 6 or 7 different jobs, maybe up to 10 at that point, and I got a few opportunities to speak a couple places, but as far as looking into ministry jobs, it just didn't happen for me. And I really went through a really dark period of just, why isn't this happening? Because I thought that was the hole in my life that was going to be filled with full-time ministry. That was the only, so not coming to that conclusion, it was really unsettling. It was very unsettling.
How did you view yourself because of that?
I was a failure. There's no way around that. I for sure thought that I was supposed to be doing it, and then when I couldn't do it, I knew that it must be something wrong with me, because clearly God put forth, I had the training, I had the opportunities to do things, so it was all on me. That was a problem with me. Right.
And so how did that affect you just day to day? Like, it's one thing to have that, like, could you separate that from other areas of your life, or did you just feel like that as a whole? Like
I really thought I had, but apparently in talking with my wife, I had not. So it affected me deeply. Like, you see yourself differently, you see God differently. Being at a job that I didn't like affected me, so it brought me down. I used to be a way more positive person than I was, and just seeing the worst of people in a job in the public, and not having a bent to positive things anyway. I was kind of negatively bent or more critical. Right. So having those things not go right, it really put a damper on my relationship with God, first of all, but obviously seeing myself in ministry, secondly, not happening. So.
Right. So what you mentioned, the way you saw God, like how did that shift? Like how did you feel towards God, or what did you think about God? Like, how did that alter your perspective or your relationship? Like, did that actually look like? Because it's not like you stopped, or did you stop believing in God?
No.
Or how did that all look like?
No, but I was very angry. I felt abandoned. I felt like good things happened to other people and not me, and I knew it had to be my fault. It's a fun balance too, because you think it must be me, but then you also blame God. So it's this weird, you're blaming everyone other than, to try to come up with an answer because you don't feel right. Right. You feel terrible all the time, so there's got to be a reason. And if you can't find the reason, then you know that you're just grasping at straws. Right. So it's a terrible feeling. Yeah. And God just became this guy with big shoulders that I wanted to dump things on. So. Right. Yeah. So
how long was that season for you? Because again, like, it's been 22 years since we've seen each other. I've seen from a distance. One of the only good things about social media is that you can kind of see some things. But what was that like? How long was that journey, and how did you have you come out of that? And if you did, how did you do it?
Well, so there's a lot of steps involved. I went and saw a counselor. I had an incident at work where I yelled at someone, and so they thought I needed some anger management. Oh, okay. So I went and saw a counselor, and he walked me through about processing people and expectations and relationships and things like that, because I have this innate sense of justice, like things should be done the right way or people should act the right way. And when that doesn't happen, I just internalize it and get angry and things like that. So I had to work through all that.
Have you always been like that?
I think so, to some extent. Okay. It got magnified when things didn't go the way I thought they were going to go, because that was the ultimate injustice. Right. That Jon Hurd's life didn't go how it was supposed to go.
It's interesting you say that, because I would never have pegged that in you. So again, 22 years distance, I look back at the Jon Hurd I knew with the long flowing hair, and from my vantage point, you were one of the sweetest, kindest, gentlest people. So to hear, but no, I genuinely mean that. So to hear that you ended up in a position where you're going to anger management classes, that doesn't sound like the Jon I knew. Yeah. And so you're saying that was part of the result of what you went through or didn't go through.
I remember we had kids, and I remember thinking, like, I yelled at my daughters one time, and they just kind of shrunk from me. And I remember thinking, what on earth could a 3-year-old have said that would make Dad yell at them? And in my brain, it was absolutely nothing. And that was correct. Like, I needed to get a handle on things, and I needed to find out why I was so angry. And it does come back to just this, training to do something and then not doing that thing and thinking that was the only thing I could do to make a difference in people's lives. Right. So when I finally got a handle on the fact that it wasn't going to happen the way I thought it was going to happen, but also that there are other ways to make a difference in the world, that was where I finally got settled. And I started processing things differently up here. Once you get a hold of some of your thoughts and can identify where they go wrong, how they go wrong, and how to not spiral, you get a big step up in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's huge. It's interesting you say that, because one of the things and one of the reasons I wanted you to be here today and why I'm so thrilled that you're here is because I live, for the most part now, in a Christian bubble. I live in church world. I joke many times that I'm a professional Christian. I get paid to stand on a stage and to preach and to teach and to do those things. And people come, for the most part, to hear. I don't live in the real world. I don't live in the marketplace. I don't live, in those kind of spaces, and I don't rub shoulders every day with people who don't believe what I believe, for the most part. And so it's really easy to be disconnected from real life.
Yeah.
And yet every single person watching right now lives in a real world, in their real world. And I'm sure most, if not all, the people that are watching have felt some of those feelings you felt, where life didn't go the way they wanted or how they expected it to, and they maybe felt some of the same feelings you felt. So you've discovered, or at least I get the sense that you've discovered, what ministry and value could look like outside of vocational ministry. And I'd love it if you could speak to the person on the other side of these cameras who would say, I'm a teacher, I work in a coffee shop, I work in the marketplace or whatever it might be, and I'm kind of in this place, but I don't really know what my purpose is. How did you find purpose in those positions that you were in, and how did you serve and care for people in them? I'd love for you to share with people, because I think you've figured something out.
Well, figured out. I mean, it took too long, that's for sure. But it's just coming to the realization that, so in my life, I don't know that I've ever led anyone to Christ. And that was the big thing,
Yeah.
Have you ever walked anyone through the sinner's prayer? Led someone to Jesus, been the person who prayed with them and welcomed them into the kingdom. So in my life, I had to get over that and feel like there were other steps. There were other people. There were people that planted seeds rather than harvested.
Right.
So in all the times I've been in jobs where it wasn't, because I've never worked in ministry.
Right.
What I've come to realize is people just want to tell you their story. They want to talk. They want to talk about things. And one of the least valuable things you can do is tell them about Jesus right off the bat. Or
it is?
It is.
You don't want to just walk up and say, boom.
I know. I may not be framing that properly, but in the way you want to start up a conversation, have a friendship, find common ground.
Yeah.
Because when people feel like you care for them, they're willing to tell you about the things that matter to them.
Right.
So, and I had to come to the realization that I'm not the one who convinces someone that Jesus loves them anyway, or that the truth is about God and Jesus. He communicates that on his own. That's the Holy Spirit's job,
right?
Is to whisper in people's
it's above
ears.
my pay grade.
Yes, exactly
Yeah.
right. So when I relieved myself of that responsibility and just became the guy who loved people, listened to people, talked to people, provided for their needs, that is one of the most underrated things. I have been able to give like a $5 bill to, bring a meal to someone. There's 10,000 things in between that you can do to someone that will mean more than anything you say.
Right.
So, I mean, that's not a new concept. People have been doing that for years. But when you internalize it and make it your own and discover that people just want to be listened to and held and cared for, that's where it's at.
I love hearing you say that, because people who have attended the Bridge for any length of time, we say it often that we want to be a storytelling church and aspire to be one, because stories are powerful.
Yeah.
And I think, that's one of the reasons I wanted you to come today, is just to kind of share a bit of your story, because your story, I think, speaks in a way that anything as a sermon that I could say. Like what you're saying, I think, can connect and relate to people on a different level than maybe I could. I know I could. And I think it's important to hear that. And for people to be empowered to share their story, I think sometimes, we feel like if we don't have this, like, I was living on the street and I was a drug dealer and I had this big, amazing moment with Jesus. Like, if we don't have that story, that somehow it's not as valuable to share. But would you say that that's not true?
When in fact, 10% of people are going to be like that. You go interview a bunch of Christians.
Yeah.
Most of them are just, I found Jesus because I liked him or because my kids, I needed something. So everyone in church, let's say the majority of people are going to be those regular folks who came to Jesus because they didn't know what else to do. Not because they had a crisis, not because they were addicted to something. Those are great stories, and those help the masses, but the people that are the rank and file, the people that everyday people, who everyone considers themselves an everyday person. So when you can connect with someone who's an everyday person like you and share a story that's similar to their stories, that's a connection right there.
Right. Now, you said something I want to just go back to, because I think you said it quickly, but I think it was profound, that it's not just about telling your story. There's another component to the power of story, and that was listening.
Listening.
And tell us about that, because again, I'm a professional Christian. I get paid to talk for the most part and love to do that.
Yeah.
But you're talking about the power of listening. What have you learned about that?
One of the most important experiences I was able to have in the grocery store, let's say, as one of the jobs I did, was just to realize how many people want to have an excuse to tell you something about themselves.
Really?
Whether it's something going on in their life, whether it's their children, whether it's a parent who died. If you catch some little signal and you can ask them a question with a well-intentioned, the intent of listening, they can tell that and they want to open up. People are so craving someone to listen to them and to be heard. And it's more valuable than you can. My soul, I know, inside is never more satisfied than when I'm heard. Not just listened to, but when someone can identify, say, this is what's really going on, isn't it? And it's amazing. And I want to give that to people, because there's a lot of people out there that just let people go by. You walk by them every day, but do you really get to see into them? And people want to be seen and heard.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it could be that for every person watching and listening, it's not so much the value of what you say or knowing the words to say, but it's how well you could listen and make that person know that and feel that they've been heard.
Right. And
That's
identifying
powerful.
their own story too. Like someone who's thinking that they don't have much to say, just hone in on who you are. Be able to say, this is what I'm going through. Now, that comes with risk. Everyone is wary of revealing that little thing that they've gone through.
Right.
That's hard, that's difficult, that's hurtful. But when you can connect with other people's pain, there's no better connection.
Wow. That's amazing. And you found that in the grocery store world that you served in. So you're just at a counter and people are coming by and you found little moments and ways to do that.
Yep.
How did you do that and it be real? Like what? Help me understand what that looks like in a practical. Like I'm coming up to check out my pizza pops, and do you see something? Is there an awareness? Do I have a tell that lets you know that there's something going on? Like what does that look like?
There's a lot of body language involved. I find looking people in the eyes always helps.
Okay.
Your eyes say a lot. Your body says a lot. But you ask like a leading question like how are you doing? Wait for the response, because 50% of people say when they say how you doing, they'll keep going. They'll keep walking. I'll hang on people. I've had the question asked to me, and then I've asked the question, and they've walked away. So I know it happens to me too, where they're not really invested. But I want people to know that if they ask, I'm going to tell them, and if I ask, I want to know. So
that's amazing. So for everybody watching, I hope that what you heard from Jon is something that you can live out in your own life, that no matter where you are, no matter what you do, no matter whether life has gone the way you thought it would, maybe you're questioning your purpose and your value and you're not really sure where you fit and where you belong, that just being that person who's willing to listen, who's willing to just offer and be aware, have an awareness outside of yourself and just be willing and vulnerable, that you can impact people's lives in ways a sermon never can, and probably to many degrees more effective. And to what you're saying is it's a piece of a bigger thing, right? Like there's so many steps. And each step has an important role to play in impacting eternity. And I think that's really, really, really great and really powerful. Jon, I won't keep you too much longer, and we're going to move on in just a few minutes. But after basically 20 years since leaving school, in the last couple of years, you've taken on an endeavor, and Jon actually wrote a book. And I was so excited to see this when this came out. It is probably the greatest title of a book ever. It's Jesus Farted and Other Uncomfortable Thoughts. And if you thought that was uncomfortable to hear that Jesus farted. I'm sure he did. But there's other uncomfortable thoughts. And so this was a book, is it 2 years or so how long has this been, this process of you writing this book?
Compiled and written over, multiple years. Probably
Multiple
3,
years.
yeah.
Yeah, and it was released when?
Last November.
Okay, so it's been out, and I picked up a copy of this, and this is a different approach to writing a book.
Definitely is,
a
yeah.
different idea. So tell us a little bit about this journey and how this came about and what this book is to you and why you feel it's something that people should read.
Well, I'll say first of all that it's a dream fulfilled. I always wanted to write a book. I remember you had written a book, and I was very excited about it. It had been mentioned, and you've kept it in the vaults there.
Yeah, my book is in the vault.
I hope I'm not giving anything away, but you may see the light of day someday. But so when I was going through the whole counseling thing and just really trying to stabilize who I was, I had someone reach out to me on Facebook and say, I can see potential in you, and I want to know if you are willing to be coached.
Wow.
So I met with a life coach for 6 months, and we talked through, and they don't tell you to do these things. It's not, here's 8 steps to get ready. It's what do you want out of life, and then what do you need to do those things, which was revolutionary to me. So I did probably 6 or 8 of the things of the 10 that we named, but on it was getting my writing out there for people to see, which took, obviously having to compile them. I've contributed to Facebook for a long time. I had a blog back in the early 07s or 08s of 2000, but doing that and just gathering it and then editing it. So I did all that, finding a self-publisher. So this is my own, this is my dream, and I made it happen through publishing it myself through a company. But that's to say, like, I can never say I never did it now. There's no regrets involved at all.
Wow. And
I love every step of it.
So what is this book, and what sets it apart from, other than the title, what sets it apart? What was your approach to this book?
I just wanted to include things in it that would make people go, huh. You could
it
laugh,
definitely does that.
You
The
could
title
laugh,
does that.
you could disagree with it, but I want reading that makes people think, and I wanted to keep it at a certain level. There's no highfalutin religious concepts in it. I wouldn't say you've read it, you can attest to that. There's nothing in there that you're not going to understand.
Right.
It's just basically my guts on a page.
Wow.
And I want people to talk about my guts. So it's a discussion starter, hopefully.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Well, to your point, Jon, I did read the book, and I've given it to a number of different people, and I'm really proud of you for writing it, for just having the courage to put your guts on paper, so to speak. And I think you've definitely taken a different approach that I really appreciate in what you just said, that it's not meant to be me telling you something. It's not meant to be me, extrapolating something out of the scriptures. This is just some thoughts to maybe get you thinking. Yeah. And maybe some thoughts that might get you asking questions. And I love that you said it's not about something for people to agree with. It's maybe conversation starters to help people find out what they believe or about certain things. One of the things that I loved in here that I thought was hilarious, and I hear your voice every time this has impacted me, something this simple. You talked about your experience at the grocery store and your view on people who have a shopping cart that they don't put back in the thing in the parking lot, that leave it on the grass. And I confess, I used to be that guy. And every time that I go to the grocery store now, I'm like, I hear your voice in my head, put the cart back. So this, as you said...
Then it was totally worth writing the book. For no other reason. One convert.
Yeah. So, but it was just interesting because I had never thought about that decision that I make and the impact for someone who has to come back and get that cart. And for me, as a professional Christian, that's one way that I can honor and serve people and think of them, not just myself and my own convenience. Yeah. And so I love that that's not a, hey, I'm going to tell you in this book what Mark chapter 5 means. You're just talking about your life experience and how we could be like Jesus better is kind of some of the things.
That's the least of our calling, is to be good people.
Yeah.
Just be considerate, good people. Do the things that are maybe a little inconvenient, but that sets us apart from the regular schmo who won't do those things.
Right.
So that's what gets people asking.
Yeah, and so I love this book, and really it does read much like a book of fortune cookies or a book of Proverbs, modern day Proverbs, a book of like Facebook posts or Twitter notes.
Coincidentally, that's where it came from.
Was that intentional? Yeah. Was that the approach you took on purpose?
It was. I like that. I like little bites. It comes in 3 different lengths. So there were longer, few paragraph stories, and then there are paragraphs, and then there are little bites. Some days you're sitting on the toilet, you want to read 2 things. Some days you want to knock out an entire chapter.
Or someday you eat 10 hot chicken wings and you're on the toilet for 2 days, and so I read the whole book in one sitting. So,
Right.
So tell the people at home that this is a book. You said your guts, but your heart is in this. This was really a dream that you saw through to the end. What would you say to the person out there who has that dream or has that thing that they're, for some reason, they just can't take one step, not the full journey, but at least the first step to seeing that become a reality? You've done it. What would you say to the person who maybe has that something in them that they've just never taken the first step? What would you say?
Well, I mean, you got to be brave. Do your research. Make sure it can happen. But nothing worth doing well is going to be easy, you know? So you got to be willing to work a little hard. You got to be willing to be brave and step out in faith a little bit. It may take longer than you ever thought. That's a book, you know, for me, 15 years in the making. So,
wow.
Just don't give up on it, because there's no timetable
Right.
for things like that.
Right. So now I can say that you are a professional author. You are a college graduate, but you have impacted more people in ways that I never could. And I think that's amazing. And I think people, and my hope is that every single person that heard from you today will feel more empowered wherever they are and whatever they do. And that they won't look to a sermon or to a church, but they can actually minister wherever they are. And I think that's amazing. And I hope that every single person watching or listening right now will pick up this book. John, tell them they can't have this one. I'm going to get you to sign this one, and I'm going to keep this one. But how could everybody else get a copy of this book?
It's available on Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, for any of your listeners who are in
They're all
the
over.
States.
They're all over. We have people all over.
UK, Australia. Barnes & Noble has it. Chapters in Canada has it.
Wow. So it's everywhere.
It is.
Okay, well listen, I'm going to encourage you. Father's Day is just around the corner, and every dad needs a copy of this, but so do you. And I would encourage you to go to Amazon for a small fee. You can support John, his dream, and his ministry. And as a church that just wants to encourage people and help people and support people in whatever they do and the calling that they have, I hope that you'll do that today. And I hope that as you read this book, again, it's somewhat, I would even use the term, it's somewhat irreverent, which is interesting, but it's real and it's raw. And it will be something that I think will help challenge you to think and to come to your own conclusions about some things that maybe you've never thought of before, which I really did through a lot of the writings. And to think even the title that Jesus farted, like as uncomfortable as that is to see, as memorable.
Or say out loud.
Yeah, or memorable. But even that alone causes you to think and reflect on the humanity of Jesus. You know, obviously he was God, he is holy, he is just, he is righteous and perfect, but he was fully God and he was fully man. And so the humanity of Jesus speaks. And just those 2 words remind me of that. And there's so much of that in this book that I just think is incredible. And I'm really thankful you wrote it and proud of you for doing it. And I hope that we as a church can encourage you and others to follow their dreams and to see those things happen.
Well, I'm incredibly grateful to you and your family for putting me up, but obviously just being here and being able to present this and catching up with you and seeing the man you become. It's, 25 years ago we talked about, meeting, and we could have never seen each other where we were, but like,
let's be real. 25 years ago, did you ever think that I would be in a church as a lead pastor?
Giving me a tour of the facilities
Yeah.
of your church. Yes, no.
You never would have thought, right? You just still see that guy in the colorful pants and the weird hair, right?
Yeah, you give all credit to God, but you're something special, Scott, and don't ever forget it.
I gave him a $20 bill before we sat down, but listen, Well, listen, please go to Amazon.ca or Amazon.com or wherever you buy books and grab yourself a copy of this. You won't regret it. I hope that it encourages you. I hope that it challenges you and inspires you to pursue your dreams, pursue your calling, your ministry, whatever that might look like and wherever that might be. And that I hope that the content of this book gets you thinking. It causes you to reflect. It causes you to put the shopping cart back where it belongs and other things as we live out what it's like to follow Jesus in everyday practical ways and how that impacts people, their lives, in ways that we just don't see in the moment, but is so true and so profound. So thank you for supporting Jon and for getting a copy of this book.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for being here today. And again, I hope that you'll be back next week for a special Storytellers edition of Hot Ones. It took me a couple days to recover from that experience, but we're really excited, and you're going to have a lot of fun at my expense. And for all the dads out there, next Sunday at our live location in Canada, we are going to have a special gift for you, and so we hope that you'll be on site for that. Until then, we're going to let you go. Much love, and God bless, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, well, hey there, welcome back. I just want to say a huge thank you to Jon Hurd for sharing his story with us. It was really awesome, and I hope it makes an impact in your own story. Well, in case you missed it, Jon published a book, and it's called Jesus Farted and Other Uncomfortable Thoughts. I've read it, it's hilarious, you should probably read it too. If you'd like to pick up a copy, visit bridgechurches.ca/top3. You'll see there's an Amazon link there to buy the book. Well, before we go, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who generously gives week after week to support the mission and vision of the Bridge. Because of you, we can support some really cool things around here, like Bridge Kids Summer Camp or Camp Unlimited happening next weekend. Thanks to you, we can do all these awesome things. If you'd like to give, please visit bridgechurches.ca/give. There's a few easy ways for you to do that there. Well, we hope you'll join us again next week as Scott and Jeremy run the gauntlet of hot sauces on Hot Ones. It's going to be an unforgettable weekend. We'll be back online at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Or if you'd like to join our in-person viewing, the building will be open at 11 a.m. for that too. And if you're a dad and you join us in person, we have a special gift for you as well. But until then, we hope you have an amazing week. Much love, and God bless.